Hello everybody, this is Baron the Bear, and this is going to be another guide for the Walking Dead survivors. This is going to be a video that's probably going to be one of the most important videos that you need to watch, because if my theory is correct, it's going to really show everyone how the combat system in this game works. Before I go into my theories, the only way that you could fully test this and prove that what I'm going to say is right is two ways. One, a developer watches this video and then posts a comment below and verifies that I'm 100% correct, that this theory is right. And two, someone watches this video and they get with another player. They have that player put out one of their F1 onto a tile, remove all gear from both the defender and the attacker, so the gear has no effect in the actual battle report. Have both F1s have melee in the front crew, range in the middle, and range in the rear. Have the attacker attack that tile and then look at the results, okay? Then have that other, the player send back his troops back to that tile, and then the attacker changes his formation to where he puts range in the front crew and maybe range in the middle crew, and then melee in the rear crew, then attack again and see if he takes more losses. And if not, then do multiple times, because there are other factors in such as the survivor skills have random percentage of chances of certain skills to go off. So one battle might not be the same as the other battle. So it would probably require probably 5 attacks for each different type of formation to get to verify which one would cause the attacker more losses, you know. So that's what makes it hard, I think, for a lot of players to really fully understand the combat mechanics. Is there's a lot of different variables. It can, such as, you know, the different tier level troops of players. How many formations the defender has in their base. And they might have all 4 of their formations in their base. They might have T8 in one formation, might have T7 in another formation. If you're solo attacking, those variables are going to make a different outcome each time. Could be also whether that player gets other allies, reinforces him. That'll have an impact. Also, the star level of survivors. The actual level of the survivors, the gear of the survivors, the combat research of the player's base, what they have researched is a factor. Even if the player is in alliance territory, or the attacker is in alliance territory, there's alliance combat boosts that make a difference. So there's a lot of different factors. So it makes it really hard without a controlled test to verify if any type of theory is correct. So with that said, I will now go over the certain factors of different type of attacks and why you would use the troops, what I would recommend you to use. Some pros and cons as well, as you know, as what I see would be the issues with each way of attacking. First off, when attacking walkers, the walkers have three formations. They have 3 crews in their formation, but they're all the same. So there might be a chance maybe a certain unit type might be the best to attack a walker. I haven't fully tested that. Maybe someone will want to test that out. Post feedback in the comments below what you find out. But for the most part, I think in general rule, if you focus on certain 2 types of units, like you have melee research and sharpshooter research, and you make your F1 formation with the chemistry in regards to those type of units, you probably will be better off using melee in your front row and range in your middle and rear row. That might be still the best option for attacking walkers. Also, certain survivors could have an effect. Okay, if you have Rick, at max level 100, 5-star, he has his last skill. I think he has a certain skill that's only against walkers. So having him in a formation might help you get the highest level walker. Also, if you notice when you attack, say for instance, you can only attack at the highest walker you can attack is a 23. You might notice when you attack that 23, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And the reason for that is because your survivors have certain skills that might have like a 40% chance of going off. Some battles, those skills might go off in such a way that you'll win. And then another attack against a walker, those skills might not go off in the way that you need them to go off, and you might lose. So there's a lot of chance in combat too. So keep that in mind when fighting walkers. What confuses people is something they hear people say, well, you shouldn't use cavalry, and other people say you should use cavalry. The reason with cavalry, what throws people off is, here's what you use cavalry for. Cavalry is great for farming on tiles because you can get the most resources, because the cavalry can carry the most weight. Cavalry is also good for attacking inactive bases that don't have any troops, because they can loot and carry back the most weight. Cavalry is also good at attacking other players if you have issues with not having enough troops, not having enough melee or range to fill your formation. So in those cases, you would put cavalry in your middle crew to act as a filler, so you have a full march when you go out and attacking. Another thing with cavalry is you can use cavalry when you're in the kill event, strongest survivor. It means that you'll be able to focus on, like, for instance, I have all 3 of these buildings, I'll be able to produce troops faster and be able to use those out in fighting and kill events and score more points, because I can generate and retrain more troops faster if I use all those troops. So those are advantages with the cavalry. With that said, if you're just focusing on fighting and hitting somebody and wanting the most damage and the least troop loss, then you wouldn't use cavalry, because most likely you're going to have your melee and your range is going to be what your chemistry boost and your survivors boost are going to be most likely for, and your research would be basically focused more on that as well too. So if you want the most damage with the least amount of wounded troops, you would probably not use cavalry. Okay. Now, in regards to attacking a player on a tile, okay, in that situation, they're only going to have one formation on that tile. They're going to only have troops in certain positions in their, front, middle, and rear crew. At that time, attacking a tile, you could be able to decide how to put your troops in your formation to counter the units that player specifically using. Okay, so that's the advantage of changing your formation to counter certain units when you attack a tile. Okay, but in regards to attacking a player in their alliance territory, maybe they have a lot of formations in their base with different setups. Maybe their F1 has melee in their front crew. Maybe their F2 has sharpshooters in their front crew. And a lot of players, they're confused by how to properly set up their marches. So there's going to be all kinds of different craziness, configurations that players are going to have. Plus, you might send that march out before it hits somebody, sends reinforcements to it. So really, in regards to attacking an enemy player, at their hive, where they can get reinforced, you really can't really specifically set up your F1 to counter an enemy player if you're going to attack their base at their hive. So, with that being said, your best option is going to be focusing on a 2-unit type of march with your F1, with your most strongest, which is probably going to be your melee and your range. So, since now you have it figured out that the most of the time you're going to be using melee and range, then how do you effectively use your melee and range to attack other players' bases? Here's my theory, and this is going to make common sense, because let's look at basic reality of battles in ancient times. They had foot soldiers, in their army, and ranged, like bowmen in their army. In those type of battles, the melee is always in the front of their army. Okay, their range, their bowmen, riflemen, whatnot, their cannons, that's usually always in the rear of their army. Okay, so if in the logic terms of reality, then that would kind of imply that that's how it would be in a game as well, with your formations. And the speed of all the units are all the same, except for T10. So, and the battle takes place instantaneously. So what that would mean is, when you fight with another person, it happens all at once. So, I'll show you some battle reports on their logs, because I wasn't able to fully prove or come close to this theory being right without this newest update, because they put the battle log that shows you the actual attack of in the battle and sequence in the rounds of the battle in this newest update. Didn't have this before. So I wasn't able to really fully pinpoint if I was right on this. Now, what will happen is then, if the battle, if the front, think of it as if two players, when they have a battle, think of it as the front row crews are the first units to clash together. Okay? So in that regards, you would want to use your melee in the front, because they're the tankiest. They can take the most damage. Then you would want to have your range in the rear, the middle and the rear crews, because they do the most damage but are the weakest. So you would want your melee to be protecting your range. Theoretically, that should be how it is. Unfortunately, there is no replay option of actually being able to view the actual battle and see how they actually end up fighting. But theoretically, what I'm saying is sound. That's probably the reality. Okay. Now I'll pause this and I'll go into the battle reports, and I'll see if I can show you some of the things I find. Okay, here is a battle report. Now, one of the big issues I think right now in the game too is there has been a lot of bugs in the game, and they are trying their best. They've been trying to iron them out. They've been doing a lot of emergency type of updating to fix these bugs, but they still could be out there. So there's no really fully way of being able to know what bug is where, And I have seen some bugs in some combat. That's pretty scary. So there could be still issues with that. So it might still be hard to really prove and test things because of the game issues. But if you look at this play here, Sven, I want to thank, I don't want to, I want to give him credit because I'm using him, now, if you can see, it shows you, how many wounded, shows the power loss. You can look, he had a huge loss compared to me, so. But if you look down here, the 5-round battle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is basically indicating, you can see the different formations. What this shows you is he got reinforced. Okay. Now, I didn't see this in the past. Maybe it's different. It's changed. There's another issue, too. They've been doing updates, and they've been changing things, and they haven't fully disclosed that in game notes. So, maybe that was just by accident, but that's a big issue because people don't know what's been changed. But what I noticed is he got reinforced by Mohoa, okay? And it looks like his reinforced ally, I attacked him first through this because it's going in sequence from top down, okay? So maybe Mohoa was a stronger formation than his F1. So it made him be the first to defend. I'm not really sure how that's working. But the reinforced player was the first I attacked. So keep that in mind. Now after Mohoa, you see Sven. He's got Rick, Boyd, and Morgan. That's his F1. The one underneath that was his F2, F3, F1. So it's going down in sequence from his strongest to the weakest formation. That's important to understand. Now, as you can see, it's showing Mohoa, in the first battle log report for the first formations to attack. How this works is, since I'm solo attacking, my F1 formation is going to have to go through all 5 of these formations. The reinforced allies formation and the 4 formations of the player I was attacking. I had to go through all 4 of them to win this battle. That's important to understand. Compared to tributes, another good factor is, since I had the most highest researched, my research, my combat skills were the highest. That's a big factor too. That's a big help in making you win a battle. So keep that in mind. Gear is another important thing. But unfortunately, the battle reports don't show what people wear and gear-wise. So I think maybe at some certain point in scouting, it might show gear. I'm not really sure on that. I haven't gotten to that point. Maybe that'd be down the road. I don't know. But this is how he was. Now you look at the battle log. I'll show this real quick. Okay. It says in the very top, attack, jump, Baron, defender, Mohoa, which was his ally reinforced. Says I won. Says attackers lineup. Front crew, middle crew, rear crew. Okay. Now, that's shown in sequence. Okay. That must be important. I have Lydia, Betta, and Abraham. And the defenders lineup, it has Morgan, Rick, and Shane. Okay. Round 1. The way the rounds work, and my theory behind the rounds, how I found this out, is I noticed if you attack an enemy base that has no troops, there is only a pre-round battle report that shows the attacker losing a small amount of troops from the defender's defense tower. So, in the beginning of a fight with another player in their base, the first thing that attacks is going to be the defender's defense tower. Okay. Now, since that one player didn't have no troops, that was the only thing that happened, and the battle was won. There was no rounds. Okay. You will notice too is if you attack a player that's really weak and you just hit them, you're going to smash right through them. You're going to win the battle really quick. You'll be only 1 round or maybe even just 2 rounds of that battle report. If they're stronger and they're closer to your level and it's going to be a harder fight, you're going to have maybe 5 or 6 different rounds, or even higher if it's really a close fight. What that means is the rounds are dictating how long that battle is going on for. Okay. The longer the battle lasts, the more rounds are going to be in your battle report. That's what that means. Now, as you look in round 1, you see Lydia. Right? That's my front crew survivor. Her skill went off first. I've asked other people to verify if this is correct, but what it looks like is the attacker always gets their first front crew survivor always gets the first skill off in the beginning of the battle. What that means is it gives the attacker the initial advantage of getting the first skill to be set off in the beginning of the battle. That's all that means, simply. It could also indicate that my theory is correct, that the front crews are the first crews that collide with each other and actually do damage against each other. So, if that's the case, then having your melee, which are stronger and can take more damage to be in your front crew, would probably be your best option. Another thing to consider about who you want to have in your first front crew survivor. You would want to have a melee, if you're using melee, which I would recommend. You would want to have a melee survivor that would be good to have for that front crew. And for instance, Animal Instinct. Damage dealt with one enemy crew, 2 under formation, take 10% enhanced damage. There's another skill that she has that's really good. I'll see if I can find it in another battle report. But having your first front crew survivor with a certain skill with a chance of going off, that's a good skill, could give you a really good advantage. So keep that in mind. So as you can see in this round, was 1 round, then there's 2 rounds, and then the battle ended. Okay? Now, if you look at the winning at the very bottom here, it shows at the very end here, it says Shane's loss of fighters reached 40% and they quit the battle. Morgan's loss of fighters reached 40% and they quit the battle. Once they, what that's saying is, once that the defender lost 40% of their troops in their crew, of that crew of Shane and Morgan, they quit the battle. Okay. And then it initiated to the second round. And then once you see again here, it says, lost of troops taken, Rick's loss of fighters 40% and quit the battle. Now if you notice, okay, listen to this. Look at the first round. Who are you seeing in the enemy crew in the red? You see Shane, Morgan, and Rick, right? You see all 3 of his survivors in the first round. The second round, you only see his Rick. And that's because his Shane and Morgan's already quit the battle because they lost 40% of their troops. At the very end here, you see Rick lost 40% of his battle of his troops and he quit the battle. Then he got out of the battle. Then the battle was won. So that's how it's dictating the rounds. His first 2 his survivors lost in the first round. And then his final survivor, Rick, lost in the second round. That's how you know it's going in sequence and there's a time being. That's why you know that the rounds are based on time of how long the battle's going on for. Okay, now here is the second battle that my F1 went against the actual defender of the base, which was Sven. If you noticed, it shows you, the attacker and defender's lineup. But then it says pre-round. It shows defender's guard tower. And it shows my front crew. Interesting enough, isn't it? The front crew took damage in the very first. Lost 11 fighters. Okay? So that shows right there that the defender's guard tower is the first to attack. Then it goes into the rounds of the actual battle. Once again, you see Lydia launching the first skill of the battle. She's the attacker's front row crew. Not a coincidence. Subjugation. Click on it. You can click on these and see what they do. In the next round, there's a 40% chance to deal 229% damage to 2 enemy crews. Keep in mind, 40% chance. Doesn't happen all the time. There is a 40% chance. Now, when it said 2 enemy crews, that's guaranteed to do damage. If it goes off and if the chance is right, it will do it would do damage to 2 enemies. So that's guaranteed if it goes off. There is a 40% chance to put them in a disarmed state, rendering them unable to trigger normal attacks for 1 round. That is a huge benefit in the beginning of a battle. If you can get this survivor to be the first one to set off the skill in the match. Okay? But keep in mind, it's only a 40% chance to put them in a disarmed this state. And it does not state that it's going to do it to 2 enemy crews. It just says, of those 2 enemy crews, you're going to get a 40% chance to get in a disarmed state for each of those crews. It should be better and more clear than that, but that's what that means. And you can show here, you can look, round 1. Look at here. See, disarmed. Okay? Enemy can't trigger normal attacks. Okay? Now, if it was both of those survivor crews, then there should be another survivor on the enemy that got disarmed. But as you look, in that round, there is no other disarmed. So, there's only a 40% chance for each of those 2 crew survivors to be disarmed. In this battle, I was fortunate enough to get that subjugation to go off in the beginning of the battle, and it disarmed Morgan. Okay, and Morgan was in the rear crew with I think, let's see, with assassin with range. Okay, that was a huge help for me because his heavy, most damage dealing unit was disabled in the first attack. That gave me an advantage, so keep that in mind. And once again, at the end of the round, it shows Morgan got out of the battle. Second round, only Rick and Boyd were in the battle. So Morgan is out of the equation at the second round. At the end of the second round, it shows Rick and Boyd are out of the battle. So I win. Now, as you can see, subjugation was set off again. Funny how Lydia is always the first skill to be set off in a round, isn't it? Because she's the front crew survivor. So, if you look at it here, even her animal instinct went off. That's another big help. So I got lucky on the second round especially. Now, I didn't see any disarm. So, she didn't get the actual disarm to go off on Boyd or Rick. So, that didn't really give me that big of a help. But I still won. I guess what I'm getting at is, and this is my opinion until I have a developer tell me I'm 100% right, or if I have some players out there that are able to test this on controlled settings to prove I'm right. When you're attacking an enemy player at their base, in their hives, where they can get reinforced, you're most likely going to be best off doing what I have set up here. Setting up melee in your front crew and range in your middle or your rear crew, or maybe even put melee in your middle crew. Whatever you find that works. But for the most part, you're going to find that melee in the front and range in the back is going to be your best option. I do have other videos on battle formations. I do have one on survivor chemistry that explains and gives you a lot of options with what survivors you can use, what type of troops to use with them, and where to put them in your actual front, middle, and rear crew. So I highly recommend those videos. As of right now, I don't think I've seen anyone as a YouTube creator come out with as much in-depth information that I'm giving you. I know this video has been 30 minutes, but I guarantee you played this game for 4 months, this 30 minutes is probably going to be the best investment of your time and going into the future. So I really hope that you take what I say in consideration and try it out. Be open-minded. Post some comments. You find out that this seems to be working for you, then let me know. This is Bear and the Bear, and I appreciate everyone who's supporting me. Like and subscribe. I'm giving giveaways. I'm giving all kinds of videos in the future. I mean, it's going to be nothing but to help for everyone who watches my videos. So I want to thank everyone. Bear and the Bear. Talk to you guys later.